Hello and welcome to the Weird News Network. I'm Tony Pratt, your host for the Weird News Network. And today we have an exceptionally intriguing, fascinating guest, Mr. Gary Arnold, who has been experiencing some strange phenomena and recording it as EVPs, which is electronic voice phenomena. Welcome to Weird News Network, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
All right. Now, just before we go into the weirdness vortex that you've gotten sucked into, just give us a brief idea about your background, that you are a normal human being and all that.
Yeah, this just fell into my lap back in 2017. I worked in academia at the local university, teaching writing for over a decade. So I've been married, beautiful wife, 2 kids. You know, it's just everything's been smooth sailing. And this crazy, outrageous stuff, just like I said, fell into my lap. In 2017, I was routinely at work. I would take my lunch break in the library, the top floor of the library on campus, and the students had already left. I would take my lunch there really as out of habit, because that's a good place to go. And, you know, during my break time, not being, you know, no one's going to interrupt me. So I was over there, and I decided I was going to read some Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol. Just, you know, it was right before Christmas and break was coming up. And as I sat there and I started to get into the book, I heard this really strange, extreme ear ringing sound that sounded crystalline and coated. It was outrageous sounding. It was just like, I've never heard anything like this. I could only compare it to some kind of like Morse code, but in a crystalline, almost insect fashion. And I had this old track phone in my pocket. I thought, man, what a weird noise that is. Maybe I could record it and figure out what this noise is, because it wasn't like traditional ear ringing. I've had that like everybody else, you know, just a little ear ringing. But no, this wasn't tinnitus or anything from all the rock concerts I've been to. This was something totally different. And upon playback of the recording, because it was just a few seconds, I expected to hear this really strange noise, but instead I heard a whispered voice, a voice saying my name. So I was like, okay, that's weird to say the least, really creepy. And I chalked it up to say, well, maybe somebody's playing a trick. Maybe one of the students is still here, because there was no one in the library at the time. And but I couldn't figure it out. And the ear ringing, once it stopped, like I said, I stopped the recording just a few seconds. I thought I would capture this noise, but instead there was a strange voice. Well, I went home, and then curiosity got the best of me. You know, as they say, curiosity can kill the cat. You got to be dangerous. It could be dangerous. But I thought, you know, what, man, this is really strange. I wonder if it will happen again. So the same MO, I went, you know, to have my lunch break, and the ear ringing comes back, much to my surprise, because I really thought it was a one-off and it wasn't going to happen again. And this time I had a question that I was going to ask. When the ear ringing happened, and I said, is anybody here? Upon playback, you hear a voice, a passionate voice saying, yes, people. Okay, I'm totally taken aback. I can't figure out what kind of joke this is. I can't figure out, well, how is someone pulling this off with this old track phone, which I happen to have right here with me. You know, I don't know. There it is. So that's the track phone. It's a Alcatel A205G. It's old school. It's from the mid 2000s. Also known,
it doesn't even flip.
It doesn't flip. It is totally old school. So you can't do anything fun with it. No surfing the internet. No wild times. Anyway, so when I recorded that, I started to get concerned, because I thought this could be some kind of health crisis the onset of some dementia, schizophrenia, even though that's not in my family. I was concerned enough that I went and told my wife, and I said, hey, I need to get something checked out here because this is crazy stuff. And we were both concerned. And I didn't tell the kids at the time because it was right around the holidays. And I went to see my family doctor, and he's like, well, we got to get insurance to pay for this. And he said, well, we'll say it's audio hallucinations. I said, well, I'm not hearing voices or anything, but we ultimately got the insurance company to pay for the MRI, the detailed high contrast MRI, where they use a dye they inject into you as well, so they can see the operating, the functioning of the brain and the systems. And I also scheduled to see a psychologist and everything. Just we wanted to make sure there's nothing organic going on that would cause this. No brain tumor, like I said, no schizophrenia, nothing emotional. All the results came back totally. I've never been healthier. All right. And that was amazing. I was glad because I didn't have a health crisis, something like that, a full-blown health crisis or any kind of concern about dementia, or schizophrenia or anything. But the same MO, I started to use it every time I take my lunch break at work. And I was able to every time encounter this strange noise and record interactions. So I started to think.
So you're not actually hearing it, but you record it and then you hear it.
Right. That this phone right here is the translator. It translates the signal, whatever the signal is, into something that is the equivalent of audio of speech. And I've had analysts that I've taken this to the next level since my first encounter started, where I've had professionals, audio forensic professionals, analyze my clips. And they have peeled away the layers, right, to prove, number one, this isn't hocus pocus. Just like a photograph, you can take it pixel by pixel and see if it's a fraud. All right, you can see if it's a counterfeit. Same thing you can do with audio files. You can look at the waveforms and say, has this been manipulated? Is this something, is there any fakery here? No. All right, so it's all authentic. And these voices, they started to answer my questions in real time. Over and over again, I'd have these questions. I could depend on them to make contact with me during my lunch break. And so I started to get an idea of, okay, they're ethereal. They claim to be alien. They claim to be otherworldly. I have these clips. They're actually on my website. They're sample clips that anybody can check out. So I wanted to, like I said, this isn't about me making a bunch of money. Number one, I live on a budget.
Your website is, no, there's no money in this.
Yeah.
What's your website?
Yeah, the website is We Are Not Alone Medium. I can share the screen. Let me take a look here so I can get the screen. So then you can take a look at it that way.
All right.
All right, here it comes. Let's see. All right, so there it is. That's the site. That's my compendium site. It's got everything I've ever done, all right, related to the phenomena. It's got interviews, it's got podcasts, it's got press I've received. Just the other week, I was hanging out with Josh Gates from the Discovery Channel. Crazy stuff. Gave him a whole bunch of data that his team can check out. But this website, if you go to this website, all right, and it's We Are Not Alone, Gary Arnold, or We Are Not Alone at Medium, then you'll find me. And it is a launch pad of everything I do. And I can click on, all the information you can do as an overview with your audience. But it is crazy stuff. So it's got, my interactions, everything, my background, what I've experienced. All right. Lots and lots of information that someone who's has a casual curiosity can say, well, let me look into this. Is this legit or not? And I go through about actually a national publication here where I have my picture. They actually had a professional photographer come out and take pictures of me. That's in my office. So, I go through, and like I said, down here, you see me in cemeteries, it is no longer limited to the library. All right. So I asked the entities a few years ago, hey, am I tethered here? Am I stuck only doing this during my lunch break? They said, no, not at all. You can start asking questions anywhere, and we will follow. There's the first documentary is called Subterranean Seance. All right. It's got a whole write-up, and then me out in nature because I like hiking, fishing stuff.
How long is the documentary?
Each documentary is 29 minutes long. There are two of them. The first one was Subterranean Seance. It got quite a bit of press. Yeah, it goes through. We have an analysis of the electronic voice phenomenon, the EVPs that I've captured. I've had artistic work done. People just, they're interested, they're fascinated by this. And I'm also a fossil collector, so I have some fossils in here because I feel that these beings are ancient. Whether they're alien, whether we believe them or not, it's a different story. I mean, are they telling the truth or not? Again, all I'm putting on the table is that
When
they
they say
exist.
alien, though, they just say alien in general. They don't give you any specific type of
Yeah,
alien.
yeah, they
Where
don't
do
tell
they
me what
come
kind.
from?
They say they're otherworldly and they say they're alien. They say they're all together, and where they are, they don't even eat. So they don't eat where they are. They don't have, so this is a spectrogram right here. So I have a lot of stuff in the documentary. This is just clips and stuff that, someone with curiosity in your audience can say, hey, let me check this stuff out. And I'm just scrolling down. There you're going to, when you click on these, you actually hear the entities. What's interesting is the entities, the aliens, answer my question before I ask it. So when you, upon playback of the recordings, you will hear them answer the question first, which means they're either telepathic or time as we understand it is not the way it is, So I have a response. I have the breakdown of each clip. And this is all free stuff. This isn't the documentary. This is just, hey, for anyone who's curious, hey, this is the real deal. I've got something really wacky and crazy. I have visualizations. We could actually see the graph of the EVP. And I have over 1,500 clips now, time-stamped, ironclad, Class A EVPs, which anybody listens to says, what the heck is that? It's so clear. Then I have, links to the documentary. I have some of the press, as you can see. All right, there's newspapers. I have lots of podcasts in Australia.
Usually come in the form of a whisper. Is it always a whisper like, or?
Some whispers are louder than others. I have one, some of the samples I sent where I was debating whether, because I also raised pigeons. I was debating what to do with, I had an extra pair of white homing pigeons. And so when the earringing happened, I thought, I'm going to ask what the entities think. Before my question, upon playback, you hear an emphatic, loud, sell them, because they put in their 2 cents. And it's some crazy stuff. This is with Josh Gates, less than 2 weeks ago, hanging out with Josh Gates, the Discovery Channel. I also got a postcard and everything from him signed. It was fun, really fun. Like I said, these are all the different podcasts, all the different press that I've been in, interviews with people, radio stations, FM radio stations, promo trailer. I'm trying, like I said, I'm not trying to make in any kind of living at this. I have a regular day job. I'm just trying to get the outrageous, ludicrous message out that, hey, this is going on. This phenomenon has been happening to me now going on 4 years. And this is the second one, the second documentary that I created, like I said, on a single shoestring budget, really cheap, but it's about the data. This one's the first one, Subterranean Seance, is a little bit more artsy. It's like a treasure hunt, and I have the audience participation where they can go and find EVPs in it as well. But the second one, Frog Hollow Road, is all about, I have the forensic reports done by professionals, all right? And I have a whole bunch of them. It ends up being the documentary part's like about 30 minutes, but then you have over an hour and a half more of the reports. We go line by line. I basically read the reports, so step by step, so anybody can say, okay, let's see what this audio forensic professional says. So it's called Frog Hollow Road. That just was released recently. And so it's also available. And my wife's the photographer of a lot of stuff, so she takes pictures and stuff, artsy stuff, and with full moon. And that's pretty much it. Now, like I said, I have these audio forensic professionals, and one of them's she actually is a crusader, a champion for victims' rights, people who've been targeted individuals where governments or shadowy
video back up there at some point here.
Yeah. So her business, Amy's Audios, and what she's able to do is it's a subliminal acoustic fingerprinting. This is going to blow your mind. That when I'm going to stop the sharing of this, but I'll go right back to it. When I sent her some clips, because this isn't her thing as far as EVPs go, but I said, hey, she was interested, and I said, I have a couple clips here I want you to analyze. They're 10 seconds long. And I want you to tell me what's in the clips. The one that I referred to about pigeons, all right, where you hear me ask the question, this is like 10 seconds, me ask the question a few seconds into it, should I sell my white pigeons? All right. Now, upon playback of the recording, you hear the emphatic EVP sell them. Amy took it with her subliminal acoustic fingerprint and the way that she analyzes it, she peels away every layer. There was a whole conversation going on before they answer. And this is in a few seconds, a male and female saying, what kind of pigeon does he have? How much do you think he'll get? This is all happening in a split second under the surface. You know, we talk about EVPs, they're still audible. They're whispered, but they're audible. And you just amplify them. The subliminal component to this is even more incredible, to think that there's a whole conversation before they say sell them about the pigeons. It's and she, again, she's, you know, she's a person who's a champion for people who being harassed by people who are using microwaves. You've probably heard about the Havana syndrome, things like that. So that's her technology, and she's got a patent on that stuff. But I you know, want to put a plug in there. I also had audio engineers. I had a person who's very, very prominent in the audio industry. So he did 30 hours on another, the alien clip, which the beings say they're alien, and he processed them in every way possible to end up with, you know, his conclusions, his summary, executive summary, that this stuff is supernatural. And so, again, this is some crazy stuff. I'm glad that, you know, you give me the opportunity to say, hey, check this out. It's so crazy. You know, and people say, well, how do you even deal with it? I mean, my coworkers, they all know about it. And they're like, Gary, we don't understand how on earth you can handle this. I said, I'm really good at one thing, is compartmentalization. I can put this aside. I can give it so much time and say, that's enough. I said, I still have my life. These beings, they would interact with me all the time. I went to my doctor once we started getting the reports coming in, and then we had another MRI after that, because we wanted to do. We had ear, nose, and throat specialists. We wanted to get into my hearing, my range of hearing. Is it different? Just crazy, and all this stuff, all these medical.
Without the recording them.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but all these medical records, I'm also willing to share that. This is the real deal. In the documentary, the second one, Frog Hollow Road, which is all about the data, because like I said, the first one, Subterranean Seance, is more about the EVP treasure hunt and telling you a little bit about me. But you actually see in the second documentary, scans of my brain. All right. You have, like I said, all the reports. I want full transparency, full disclosure. I'm all about, you know, this is the real deal. And I don't want to, you know, exaggerate, no hyperbole. This is unvarnished truth, unmanipulated, ironclad forensic evidence, data, all right, that withstands any degree of scientific scrutiny to say, what the hell is going on? This is crazy. And that's it. And that's what I wanted to get. And I have these reports that if you get the second documentary, you're able to, and that's Frog Hollow Road, you're able to go and actually line by line, look at the reports and come to your own conclusion and say, okay, well, what's Mr. Arnold getting out of this? I mean, it's certainly not been something that's made my life better. If anything, some people would say, well, that's a curse. I mean, I'm able to compartmentalize it, but I'm a person who, you know, the priority is my wife and kids and my own life. This is something that just happened to fall into my lap. And I'm just sharing the message with everybody, saying some crazy stuff.
So you're constantly hearing this just at random times?
Yeah, a lot of times, like in the middle of the night.
Do you always have the ringing in the ear preceding it?
9 times out of 10. There are times when it's not there. Right? And maybe it's just I can't hear it. Maybe like I said, I've had an ear infection or something. I can't really hear. So I don't know the consistency. Like I say, 9 times out of 10, they answer the questions before I ask them. But there's always the exception where I have had an answer come after my question. And I'm like, okay, so most of the time it's customary for them to answer the question before I ask it. But they do mix it up sometimes and surprise me. And the same thing, most of the time I will hear this signal, this coded, crystalline, almost cricket-like insect signal that is on the level of, like, if you ever heard a bat, if you have really good hearing, which apparently I do, you can hear when bats echolocate. They make a certain noise, really high frequency noise that's very similar to when the entities want to talk, they will let me know that. by making this sound. But I don't always pick up my recorder in the middle of the night. That's my time. I'm sleeping. Leave me alone. And I have recordings where I've been offended that, they seem to have a strange or bizarre sense of humor. I've been offended by some of their vulgarity. I mean, they say the F word sometimes. And I'm like, well, hey, if you're going to be a negative here, I'm not going to deal with you. And then I get like a whole slew of EVPs right afterwards. I'm talking about apologies. We're sorry. And okay. But sometimes I just think that it's manipulation, but whatever the case may be, they want to be known. That's the first thing. So if somebody were to ask me a question on the street, man, is that some crazy stuff or what? I would say, if I didn't know me, I'd be like, yeah, that's crazy. There's no way that's true. That's ridiculous. No.
So why do they want to be known? What's their purpose? What's the objective to communicate? What are they trying to say?
I think they want people to know they exist. I think that they have been in the shadows, apparently from my interactions, over 1,500 clips now, for a long time. And they are here, and they're just out of the range of our perception. So when I say they're ethereal, I'm saying they may be multidimensional or interdimensional, but they say they're alien. All right. I actually
describe what they look like, or have you had any kind of visual?
Yeah, I've never seen them. I did see when I was younger. I used to see orbs. All right. Okay. Blue orbs primarily, sometimes white. But I've been with people and they've seen the orbs when I saw them, and they're like, "Wow, what is that?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "Energy." I said, it's not hurting me, so I'm not. I ignore it.
Do you have any reason to relate that to this phenomena, or
yeah, I think that they've been part of that. I think whatever they are.
Why do you think that? What do you base that on?
They have said, I have a clip. I have several clips actually, but one, they call me their favorite, which is I said that's a manipulation. I said because he comes out and says you're our favorite, right? And then we've watched
our favorite abductee.
Yeah, we've watched you forever, and I'm like, forever? I haven't. And they seem to imply that they're watching all of us. I have actually had EVP recordings where they know what's going on in the bigger sense. It's like they're making a report to someone. So the example, when COVID started, the schools shut down, and my kids, they had to start home learning.
Yeah, what is your family's reaction to all this fun stuff?
Yeah, at first, believe me, it was
Daddy's crazy.
Yeah, this is out there. Are you using something? I said no. And look at even my family doctor. He was convinced. He was like, he prayed about it. He's a man of tremendous faith. And he came back to me, and when I played some of the clips to my family doctor, he said God told him he said God wants you to know, because I asked, that God thinks you have a gift. And I laughed. I was like, Doc, I said, can I regift this? I said, I'm not sure I want this. I said, these beings, they know the name of my family, my pets. They say that they're making reports. If you do something wrong, like when I was saying about the school, COVID started, there was a food, charity, and the schools were giving out food to the kids. So I was waiting in the van with my kids to pick up their portion for the week, food. And I get the earring and I'm sitting there and I make a joke out of a lot of things. And I'm like, kids, I better take this call. And upon playback, you have the being, an entity. It's always a different voice. Sometimes children, they sound like children, sometimes feminine, masculine, different age. But this voice said, they don't use the food. I felt I was being judged. And I'm like, so I went back to my wife, who was working from home at the time too. And I said, are we throwing away food here? Is there something? The entities have said loud and clear, they don't use the food. And she's like, we're giving some of the food to your parents, the rice and stuff that we don't want. And I went to mom and dad, my parents, and they said, yeah, we're throwing that out. And I'm like, oh. I said, I'm being judged in a negative way. And I don't know who, and somebody could say, well, these are angels and they're watching you and they're telling God that, hey, you guys are throwing something. I said, unbeknownst to me, this food was being wasted. It wasn't like something in my parents, just they weren't going to eat that, and they weren't they were too kind to tell us. They didn't want the rice and stuff that I was giving them. But whatever the case may be, there's a sense of some of these beings, I think, would be what the older generations and the biblical people would say are angelic. And some of them, the other end of the spectrum, could be demonic. All right. And we say aliens today, but perhaps there are different races that some are benevolent, kind,
What's
and
the
look at
weirdest experience you've had with them?
the weirdest experience that I've had with them. Well, COVID when it was starting, and I asked, okay, I want to know, is there anyone in my family who is most susceptible to this virus? Because I want to know, and people say, well, hey, it's that curiosity is going to get you in trouble, wanting to know the future. I don't try to reach out to dead people or anything like that, although they seem to have something to do again and again with the dead. They've told me that, but yeah. So I wanted to know, and the voice comes on clear as can be. I said, who in my circle, my family is the most vulnerable, and the voice comes on and says, your father. And you think of the Star Wars where you have Darth Vader, your father, I'm your father, and it's the same almost kind of gruffness in the voice. But we made sure, it was my dad is battling cancer, so we made sure, hey, we got to look out for dad. We got to dot our I's and cross the T's and circle the wagon and protect him and make sure he gets his shots and stuff. So thank God, ever since, we've redoubled our efforts, and dad is still with us. My father, everybody, going back to your original question, it's our new normal. All of us have accepted that, okay, this is real, because why would Gary fake this for 4 years and it's not been profitable? It's not they're not telling me winning lottery numbers.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like the new normal, like I said. And
What
so
they do, let me know.
I will. It better be the big Powerball or something.
Big one, yeah.
Why waste time on the pick four or something?
Exactly.
But and I came out. I did ask, could I have the winning lottery numbers? And the answer was a resounding no. Yeah, they're not doing that. They're not going to make my life easier, apparently, just because I'd like it to be easier. But they do like, and I do ask, I said, is this kind of telling people about my experience, about the phenomenon? Is this something you want me to continue? Oh, yes. So they like this. They want to be known. They want to be recognized as existing. For the most part, they're watching us, and that's the thing. A lot of people get creeped out thinking that they're being watched and maybe judged, and maybe seen as hey, you could do better. Because I've had they've intervened when I've had disagreements with my wife, and then they say her name, and I get the ear ringing, and then they I'm talking about 8 times in a row scolded me, okay, about me being wrong in an argument. And you can't make this nonsense up. This is so off the wall. And including, and you have sometimes, like, I wanted to relate a story where I was getting ready to record a session, is what I'll call them. And it was over here in the library where I work. And I was eating some food that made me gassy. So right before I was to start the session, I passed gas rather loudly. The entity, the first thing the entity says in a female voice, he let a stinker. Okay. Oh my God. So not only is it bad enough that, thankfully, no one was in the library at the time, but I knew that happened. But then to think that others that I can't even see are registering this and making a joke out of it too, which, again, there's a strange sense of humor here. You can't make this nonsense. It is so far beyond the pale. It is disturbing on one hand, at the same time, like, wow. And then when you had me do an experiment for you about what was going on in that forested area for you, and that's the thing.
Pictures of strange Bigfoot, ape men, and other weird entities, maybe interdimensional types. And there were a lot of trees that had been, sawed down by humans, but also other ones that had been like exploded from the inside out, like a microwave effect or something weird happening. I mean, yeah, they were knocking some trees over with bulldozers, but I mean, these were splintered beyond any kind of normal effect that you could imagine. And so you asked the entities what was going on. The question I wanted you to ask them for me, and you didn't characterize it in advance. You just sent me the recording of what they said, and of course they said destruction.
Yeah.
Pretty accurate of what was going on.
Yeah, and that's the way I do it. I've had other researchers, including members of Bob Bigelow's team. So that's the way my method is. If they have a question, and I do it pro bono, I just help out people because I figured they help me, different researchers. So I will ask the question.
Bigelow is the Bigelow Aerospace.
Correct.
He has founded an organization called NIDS, National Institute of Discovery Science. I don't know if it's still extant or if they're active or what the status of it is. I hadn't been able to figure that out, but I know that at one time, FAA pilots were instructed to report their UAP sightings to NIDS, and they actually interviewed me about an interdimensional entity sighting, 20 years ago.
Yeah,
like 6 hours. My sighting took 30 seconds, but they had 6 hours of questions, so they're very thorough about what they're doing.
They are, and that's the same thing. So I would send them clips. I would not make suggestions as to what I hear or what I think I hear. It was just the raw clip saying, "Here's the response." The response came in every case for them. It came before the question, and apparently it was right.
You give them the context, right? You give them the question. You give them the situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the results spoke for themselves. And that's where, like the documentary I have out, Subterranean Seance, the evidence speaks, and you can finish that. It speaks for itself. I mean, these clips in the second documentary, Frog Hollow Road, these clips have been analyzed by professionals. These clips are remarkable, and I've been told that by people. I mean, one guy who wants to remain anonymous because he's got non-disclosure agreements and stuff. He really shouldn't be doing this for me, kind of thing, because he's working with other people in that field, and he's a professional, but it's just like, and he's well known in UFO Twitter. All right, he's very prominent. But the guy, and I'll say he's a guy. The guy, he was like, oh my gosh, and he just blown away, and he evaluated the clips so you can see that when the entity speaks, when it's the recording, they use a different signal to noise ratio than human speech. So it's graphically demonstrable. You can see it, and they say, okay, they're not, number one, they're not creating what we call speech. Like human beings use the larynx, vocal cords, air moving across. This is totally different. This is about energy. Apparently the old school track phones, let's say 2008, before that, they have white noise still, a lot of white noise. They don't have the modern.
It's actually a voice recorder that's on there, right?
Right. There's a digital voice recorder. Right. Yeah. And so the modern smartphones, they use filtering algorithms.
Have you tried other devices?
I have. I have the documentary. We have side by side the smartphones. We have the old school phones. What's recording? Simultaneously.
But that one seems to work the best.
It does. It's my go-to phone as far as I have a whole bunch of this make and model. And in the documentary Frog Hollow Road, I actually dissect it. So we want to deconstruct it. So there it is, piece by piece. I tore one up, I'm like, okay, this is for the movie that I'm making. I want people to see the inner workings of what, could go down in history as something.
And what maybe you're making a movie, or is it a documentary, or what are you saying?
Oh, yeah, it's in the documentary. It's in the Frog Hollow Road one.
Okay, gotcha.
So I break it down, and people can look at the parts of the inner workings, and I'm trying to be, no matter what, open and honest and data driven. And I have the data. All right. It's just about putting it together in a way that people can say, okay, yeah, I can understand. He's using he's using a smartphone here. He's using an old school, not smartphone. And look at the difference in what they're recording. All right. The smartphone The modern ones, those filtering algorithms take out almost all white noise. So you're getting nothing. All right. And I've had other researchers tell me, well, you got to do them so many meters apart. And we do, so we use a Faraday pouch. So that eliminates a lot of the signal as far as, texting, and there are only certain frequencies can get through that, as we know. So, like
one
cosmic
frequency really
radiation
can get through there. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, these are things that I use in this documentary. Again, the idea is to show the audience this isn't a joke. I'm not trying to pull a fast one. This is some creepy, crazy, outlandish, mind-melting, mind-blowing stuff. And I'm trying to invite the audience participation. Hey, I want you guys to look into it yourselves. I want you to think, don't just believe what you've been told. The world is so much more than what we've been told, whether it's Bigfoot.
And you're sure this is not your wife doing this? Because they're saying you're wrong in these arguments every time. She's winning every argument. I mean,
she doesn't win them all.
Overreaching message, universal message that they have, or what they want us to do, or what's their point?
That's the thing. If you remember the 70s, and you remember, God rest his soul, Robin Williams as Mork from Mork.
Yeah.
Mork and Mindy, and he played that character. There's a sense of that kind of comedy, of innocent comedy about them. That they're tricksters on one hand, they like playing games, but they're by and large, they appreciate humor in a way that sometimes we forget that, there are funny things about life, like farting, Some people, they outgrow that, and they're too dignified to admit something like that. Yeah. I'm presenting myself all, hey, I'm losing my hair, warts and all, here I am. And this is part of the human experience. And the entity laughing about it told me something that you couldn't get from just waveform analysis. That it's like, wow, this is kind of cool that we could build a bridge between us and them, that they appreciate humor. And maybe that's a common denominator they have with our species that we could work on. So I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not a philosopher or a theologian. I'm just a regular guy with a kind of crazy experience. It's ongoing, and I just thought it'd be great to share it with your audience.
Cool. Is there any final thoughts you want to tell the audience about?
Well, I'm a big country music fan.
All right, we'll come to Nashville, man. We'll do
planning on
we'll do a live TV show sometime once we get past this COVID crap.
Yeah, my wife and I, we saw Garth Brooks, and my son, huge Johnny Cash fan, and we're talking about legends of country music and stuff, and it's just like, yeah. Right. So I going to Nashville is definitely on my bucket list.
All right. Well, Gary Arnold, thank you for being our guest on the Weird News Network.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Thank you. And thank your audience for even listening.